Perry County Judge Dean Wilson has made a name for himself, warning young people about the dangers of drinking and driving.
And tonight, he's the one learning a tough lesson after police say he drove drunk and left the scene of a crash. 10 TV News reporter Glenn McEntyre joins us live in Perry County with a story you'll see only on 10 TV.
Jerry, Judge Wilson has presided over countless cases in his decades on the bench here in Perry County. Tonight, he's the one facing judgment. 10 TV was there in April as Perry County Judge Dean Wilson presided over an OVI trial. This case wasn't heard in his Perry County courtroom, but at a high school with an audience of young drivers. Wilson started the program 11 years ago as a real-life lesson in actions and consequences.
We have fortunately not had one alcohol-related incident in any of the schools involving with the proms since we've instituted the program.
Tonight, the judge's message may be changing from don't drink and drive to do as I say, not as I do. Columbus police say he was driving under the influence Sunday when he crashed into a COTA bus.
It wasn't like he sideswiped, it was like he just hit directly into it.
Mark Williams was on that bus. He says they were westbound on West Spring Street in the Arena District when the black Mercedes hit the bus, and that's not all.
It was hard, like boom, and he just backed up and ran off. And we couldn't believe it because we was just stunned for a minute, like, and the bus driver said, did somebody just hit me? We were all like, yeah. And he just ran off.
A Columbus police helicopter aided in the search for the driver, who was found 12 miles away on I-70 eastbound near Bryce Road.
He responded like a regular criminal would and ran. That's it, he ran.
What would you say if I told you this driver was a judge?
Oh, wow. That's incredible. That's amazing. I would never believe that.
Columbus police say Judge Wilson refused a breathalyzer and field sobriety tests. Today, he also refused to answer our questions.
I understand you've got a job to do.
Sure.
And I appreciate that, but I don't have any comment.
Sure.
Any questions can be directed to my counsel, Mr. Say.
Were you driving while intoxicated? Why did you leave the scene, Your Honor? Why would you leave the scene of a crash? What do you expect of somebody who is a judge?
To acknowledge that they did wrong and to own up to it and be a man. Hypocrite. Hypocrite.
Judge Wilson is charged with OVI and hit skip. Both are misdemeanors. He's due back in court on September 10th. Reporting live at the Perry County Courthouse, Glenn McEntyre, 10 TV News.
Glenn, let me ask you, does this arrest have any impact on his job?
Jerry, it could. It's not clear whether or not it will. A spokesperson for the Ohio Supreme Court tells me first someone would have to file a complaint with either the Bar Association or the Supreme Court's Disciplinary Council. After an investigation, the judge could face anything from a public reprimand to disbarment, although I'm told the latter is highly unlikely in a non-felony case.
All right, thanks a lot, Glenn. Well, new at 6, what began as a joke became a man's last wish, and today it led to a funeral like no other. 10 TV's Glenn McEntyre witnessed this unforgettable farewell, but first a little warning here. The story contains images that may be upsetting to some viewers.
Bill Stanley was no ordinary man.
What you would call a twist of color on the tweed surface of life.
He left home at 13 to work cattle ranches out west, eventually traveling to 49 of the 50 states. He settled down long enough to raise a family, but never lost his passion for the road. His daughter says that's why his 1967 Harley meant so much to him.
Freedom. He could go anywhere on that bike he wanted to. My dad was a man that had the wanderlust.
It was 18 years ago, while discussing who would get his prized possession, that an idea intended as a joke took root.
He said, what am I supposed to do? I got 2 boys, 1 bike. My sister just offhandedly said, oh, Dad, just be buried with it. I think about 2 weeks after that, it really hit him. What a great idea. And we all was just like, Dad. And he goes, no, that's how I'm going out. And we still thought he was kidding. 18 years later, guess what?
Work to make Bill's final wish a reality began 6 years ago. He and his sons built the large plexiglass casket to hold him and his Harley, and he bought 3 burial plots next to his wife.
As you know, Bill was a rodeo cowboy.
Today in Mechanicsburg, mourners gathered.
It's interesting. Speechless.
And gazed.
He's going out in style. Gonna be hard to top this one.
At a man where he was happiest.
Obviously, he did it his way, didn't he?
Bill Stanley, as he wanted to be remembered and be buried on his beloved Harley.
It's not for everyone, but hey, that's what he wanted.
When you would give somebody their last wishes, why be sad?
His friends and family joining him for one final ride. A remarkable sight, an extraordinary send-off.
That's the true Easy Rider right there, that guy right there.
Odd but fitting, offbeat but heartfelt, and his family says just how Bill would have wanted it.
We had ever asked Dad anything in our lifetime, in his lifetime, something special, Dad would do his best to do it for us. So this is all we could do for him. Some people walk through the pearly gates, some ride.
Glenn McEntyre, 10 TV News.
The fallout from Ferguson and the shooting death of Michael Brown. Good evening. I'm Kristen Hartman.
I'm Tracy Townsend, and while officials try to keep the peace, many parents here are talking with their children about the controversy. And at the center of the flaring tempers of Ferguson are families who feel their children are less valued and less protected by the justice system. 10 TV News reporter Glenn McEntyre spoke with 2 mothers today for whom that pain is very real.
Tracy, they are mothers who have raised and are raising young black men. For them, there is no distance between Ferguson and Columbus.
If you want to see what a mother's love looks like, ask Siobhan Boyd Nelson about her son Mars.
He is amazing. He is an 11-year-old 6th grader.
Her hopes for him are no different than any other parents.
I want him to have 1,000 dreams and get to pursue all of them.
But she says there are obstacles, not of his making or hers, between her son and his future. The burden of being a black male in America.
Young black men have to walk a very narrow, almost impossibly narrow line for them to be viewed as human. What happened last night is that line narrowed in my mind.
Cheryl Noble was also watching Ferguson last night from the perspective of a mother. She has 2 adult sons. She took away a similar message.
That a black life doesn't have as much value and worth to America as a white life.
A heartbreaking conclusion for someone who raised black children.
Do you fear for your sons today?
I do. I absolutely do.
It's a lesson Cheryl says her children had to learn early.
They've all been stopped and asked questions where they were going, you know, why they were in certain neighborhoods, that kind of thing.
Based, do you believe
on their race? Absolutely. You almost have a sense of fatalism, you know, because you know, just based on sight alone, they're not going to ask me questions about, you know, what kind of person are you, what are your values, you know, have you ever been in trouble?
It is a future Siobhan fears, forcing her to have some very adult talks with her little boy.
And the fact that he needs to be on guard. He needs to be very mindful that he is perceived as threatening and suspect, and assume that with everyone he meets.
They say they just want their children to have the opportunity others do, to make mistakes and live to learn the lessons.
He said things to me such as, but I get good grades, but my parents are attorneys. And I had to stop him and say, love, no one's going to stop and ask you whether or not you're a good student.
Both Siobhan and Cheryl insist they are not anti-police. While neither of them say Michael Brown was without fault, they don't believe his actions justified his killing. Glenn McEntyre, 10 TV News.
The Ohio State student took to social media with a message to his attacker.
And in the face of a hateful act, he's receiving huge support from around the world. 10 TV's Glenn McEntyre is in our newsroom with that powerful message.
Kristen, over the last few years, we've all learned the power of social media, for better or worse. It's a lesson this OSU student learned in the moment he needed it most, and in this case, it's most definitely for the better. Ask 20-year-old Cole Ledford to describe himself.
I'm a junior here at Ohio State. I feel like I'm pretty involved. I currently serve as the vice president of the Interfraternity Council, so I get to govern the 34 social fraternities. Really just love being involved and love Ohio State.
And the word gay doesn't come up.
It's one singular part of me, just like being a white male is. I don't think it should define me any more than any other characteristic.
But gay is all a stranger saw Thursday night as Cole and his boyfriend Jared were saying goodbye to each other.
He kissed me goodnight and turned across the street to walk away. It was raining, so I tried to hurry home, and as soon as I turned around, someone came up and actually punched me, yelling a gay expletive. Knocked me to the ground. By the time I got up, they were gone.
By the time Cole got home, he had a visible knot on his face. He posted a photo along with this message to his attacker.
I'm sorry that you called me fag. I'm sorry you hit me for no reason. I'm sorry whatever insecurities you have don't allow you to accept others for who they are. I'm sorry I threaten you. I'm not sorry I'm gay. I'm proud to be this way, and I'm proud to be confident enough to love who I love and to love me. I'm proud to have friends and family that love me regardless of me. Honestly, I'm not sorry.
He says at the time he didn't give much thought to his words, but through the power of social media, his moment of venting went viral to the tune of 34,000 retweets and 66,000 favorites, getting the attention of news organizations far and wide. His tweet traveled the globe, translated into multiple languages, seen by countless people.
The first thing was, oh my God, I have to call my mom to make sure she hears it from me before this. I didn't call my mom the night it happened, so she wasn't really prepared for what was happening. So by the time I called her, I was already international.
Initially, Jared says the attack made him question his most innocent instinct.
When we were in the store and I went to go hold his hand and I stopped myself for a second, and it came to my mind thinking, what's going to happen if I hold his hand? It was like a unnerving thought.
But then he saw the tidal wave of support from around the world. You're a good man and your message is beautiful. Stay proud, stay strong, stay you. Today, he shows affection without fear.
Your act of violence isn't going to change who I am as a person, and I'm stronger. We're stronger.
I think my message to the guy that did this is, I'm sorry that you felt the need to do this, but thank you for showing me and the rest of the world that love truly is greater than hate.
Cole says the message that touched him most was from a young man in Texas who said Cole's strength after being attacked gave him the courage to come out to his parents. He and Jared have received messages of support from as far away as Singapore and South Africa. Live in the newsroom, Glenn McEntyre, 10 TV News.